You don't actually hate discipline. You hate the feeling that comes right before it. That restless, itchy, uncomfortable feeling when your brain realizes it's not about to get what it wants immediately. So you reach for your phone again, not consciously. Your hand moves before your mind even catches up. One notification. One video. One scroll. One quick break. And suddenly 40 minutes disappear. The strange part is, you know it's happening while it's happening. That's what makes it unsettling. You're watching yourself sabotage your own attention in real time. And somehow, you still do it. A lot of people call this laziness. It's not. Laziness usually feels peaceful. This doesn't. This feels frantic. Mentally noisy. Like your brain is constantly trying to escape stillness. You can feel it late at night. You're exhausted. Your eyes hurt. Your mind feels overloaded. But instead of sleeping, you keep consuming. Another video. Another refresh. Another dopamine hit. Not because you even enjoy it anymore, because stopping feels uncomfortable. And this is where things quietly begin falling apart. Because instant pleasure doesn't destroy your future dramatically. It destroys your ability to stay with anything long enough for your future to exist. That's the part nobody explains properly. The damage isn't only wasted time, it's fragmented attention, shallow focus, emotional dependence, reduced tolerance for boredom, which becomes dangerous because almost everything meaningful in life requires the exact opposite: deep focus, delayed reward, repetition, patience. But your brain is slowly being trained away from all of it. And the scary part? Modern life profits from that. Every app on your phone is competing for one thing: your attention. Not your happiness, not your growth. Your attention, because attention can be monetized, which means your inability to focus is making someone else very successful. Meanwhile, your own goals sit untouched in the background like unopened tabs in your mind. You think about them constantly. That business idea, that healthier version of yourself, the creative project, the skill you wanted to learn months ago. But every time you sit down to begin, your brain starts bargaining. Check your messages first. You've had a stressful day. You'll focus better later. And at first, those thoughts feel reasonable. That's what makes this trap so effective. Instant pleasure rarely announces itself as destruction. It arrives disguised as relief. Tiny relief. A little comfort after stress. A little entertainment after work. A little escape from difficult emotions. But here's what nobody realizes early enough. When your brain gets addicted to instant emotional relief, your future starts feeling emotionally unbearable. Because future-focused behavior is slow. And slow feels painful to a brain trained on immediacy. You notice this when you try to focus. 5 minutes into working, your brain suddenly wants stimulation. Music, snacks, notifications, anything. Silence starts feeling emotionally loud. That's not an accident. Your dopamine system has been conditioned to expect constant reward, which explains why normal life now feels strangely dull for so many people. Reading feels harder. Thinking feels harder. Being present feels harder. Even rest feels harder. You can see it everywhere. People watching shows while scrolling on their phones at the same time because one stream of stimulation no longer feels like enough. People unable to sit through discomfort without immediately escaping into content. People calling themselves burned out when they haven't actually rested mentally in years. Because stimulation is not rest. Distraction is not recovery. And this changes everything. Because a lot of what you think is exhaustion is overstimulation. Your brain never fully settles anymore. There's always noise. Even in silence. Especially in silence. Because eventually, instant pleasure stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like survival. That sounds dramatic until you notice your own behavior. You wake up and check your phone before your brain fully wakes up. You can't eat without stimulation anymore. Can't sit in silence. Can't focus on one task without feeling restless halfway through. Even moments that should feel meaningful become interrupted by urges, tiny compulsions. Check. Refresh. Escape. Repeat. And the strange part is, most people blame themselves personally for this. They think, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I have no discipline, maybe I'm broken. But your brain is responding exactly how it was trained to respond. That's what makes this uncomfortable, because the habits ruining your future often feel completely normal socially. Nobody looks alarmed when someone spends 6 hours scrolling. Nobody panics when attention spans disappear. Nobody notices someone slowly becoming emotionally dependent on stimulation until the consequences arrive. And they arrive quietly. You stop finishing things. Your focus weakens, your patience weakens, your self-trust weakens, and eventually your ambitions start shrinking to match your attention span. That one hurts. Because deep down you remember versions of yourself that wanted more. You used to imagine building things, learning deeply, creating something meaningful. Now your mind struggles to stay with one difficult thought before craving escape. And this is where the real psychological damage happens. Instant pleasure changes your relationship with effort itself. Effort starts feeling wrong. Slow progress feels unbearable. Boredom feels threatening. So your brain begins prioritizing what feels stimulating over what feels meaningful. That's a dangerous trade, because meaningful lives are usually built through repetitions that don't feel exciting in the moment. Writing when nobody sees it, studying before results appear, saving money without immediate reward, practicing skills badly for long periods. None of that gives instant dopamine, which means modern brains often reject the exact behaviors that create long-term freedom. And this is where people unknowingly sabotage themselves for years, not because they don't care about their future, because their nervous system became addicted to escaping the present. That realization changes people, especially when they understand something almost nobody talks about. Pleasure itself isn't the problem. The problem is needing pleasure constantly. That's when your mind loses its ability to tolerate ordinary life. And ordinary life is where almost all growth happens. Not during peak motivation, not during emotional breakthroughs, during quiet repetition. But quiet repetition feels emotionally empty to overstimulated minds, so people keep searching for intensity instead. More motivation, more hacks, more content, more inspiration. Meanwhile, their actual life remains untouched. That's why self-improvement can become another form of avoidance. You consume growth instead of practicing it. Your brain mistakes information for transformation. And honestly, that illusion is comforting. Because learning feels productive without forcing confrontation. Real change does. Real change asks difficult questions. Why do you keep escaping? Why does boredom scare you? Why do you abandon yourself the second discomfort appears? Those questions are uncomfortable because they expose something deeper. A lot of people are not addicted to pleasure. They're addicted to emotional avoidance. Pleasure is only the vehicle. That's why people scroll when anxious, eat when overwhelmed, binge content when lonely, chase stimulation when life feels uncertain. The pleasure itself lasts minutes. The escape is what they're actually seeking. And once you see that pattern in yourself, you start noticing how often your life is being controlled by emotional impulses disguised as harmless habits. That awareness is painful, but it's also freeing, because now the problem becomes visible. And visible problems can be changed, slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly, but changed. That's the hopeful part people miss. Your brain adapted into this pattern, which means it can adapt out of it too. Attention can heal. Focus can return. Discipline can be rebuilt, not through intensity, through repetition. Small moments where you resist the urge to escape yourself. That's where your future starts rebuilding. Quietly. You sit with boredom a little longer. You finish difficult tasks without checking your phone. You stop needing constant stimulation to feel okay. And something surprising begins happening. Your mind becomes calmer. Not because life suddenly got easier, because your nervous system stops expecting endless dopamine every few seconds. You begin enjoying slower things again, thinking deeply, reading, creating, being present during ordinary moments. And this changes your identity more than people realize. Because when you stop chasing instant pleasure constantly, your future stops feeling impossible. You trust yourself more. You focus longer. You stop emotionally collapsing every time progress feels slow. That's when real confidence starts forming. Not loud confidence, stable confidence, the kind built through private self-respect. And maybe that's what this entire conversation was really about. Not productivity, not discipline, your relationship with yourself. Because every time you constantly escape discomfort, you quietly teach yourself. My emotions control me. But every time you stay present through discomfort, you teach yourself something different. I can handle reality without running from it. That lesson changes lives. Slowly at first, then completely. And if this felt a little too familiar, maybe your mind has been asking for silence longer than you realized.